Jyotisha is the traditional Hindu system of astronomy and astrology. It is also known as Hindu astrology, Indian astrology, and more recently Vedic astrology. The term Hindu astrology has been in use as the English equivalent of Jyotisha to the first pounder since the early 19th century, whereas Vedic astrology is a relatively recent term, entering common usage in the 1980s with self-help publications on Āyurveda or yoga. Vedanga Jyotisha are one of the earliest writings about astrology and astronomy within Vedas. Historical documentation suggests horoscopic astrology in the Indian subcontinent came from Hellenic influences post-dating the Vedic period. It has been divided into three main branches: Siddha Nta, Indian astronomy. Saw to the first Heta, mundane astrology, predicting important events related to countries such as war, earthquakes, political events, financial positions, electional astrology, house and construction-related matters, animals, portents, omens, and so on. Hora, predictive astrology in detail. Astrology has been debated in India. Following a judgment of the Andhra Pradesh High Court in 2001, which favoured astrology, some Indian universities offer advanced degrees in astrology. History. Jyotisha to the first pound A is one of the Vedanga to the first Ga, the 6 auxiliary disciplines used to support Vedic rituals. Early Jyotisha to the first pound A is concerned with the preparation of a calendar to fix the date of sacrificial rituals. Nothing is written on planets. There are mentions of eclipse-causing demons in the Atharva Veda and Khandogya Upanishad to the first pound ad, the Khandogya mentioning Rahu. In fact, the term Graya, which is now taken to mean planet, originally meant demon. The Ada the first Shtveda also mentions an eclipse-causing demon, Svabhanu, however the specific term of Graya becomes applied to Svabhanu in the later Mahabharata and Ramayana to the first A. The foundation of Hindu astrology is the notion of Bandhu of the Vedas, which is the connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm. Practice relies primarily on the sidereal zodiac, which is different from the tropical zodiac used in Western astrology in that an ayana or to the first angstrom adjustment is made for the gradual precession of the vernal equinox. Hindu astrology includes several nuanced subsystems of interpretation and prediction with elements not found in Hellenistic astrology, such as its system of lunar mansions. It was only after the transmission of Hellenistic astrology that the order of planets in India was fixed in that of the 7-day week. Hellenistic astrology and astronomy also transmitted the 12 zodiacal signs beginning with Aries and the 12 astrological places beginning with the ascendant. The first evidence of the introduction of Greek astrology to India is the Vedanga Jyotisha, which dates to the early centuries CE. The Vedanga Jyotisha was translated from Greek to Sanskrit by Yavani Avra during the 2nd century CE, under the patronage of the Western satrap Saka king Rudradaman I, and is considered the first Indian astrological treatise in the Sanskrit language. However, the only version that survives is the later verse version of Sfujitvaja, which dates to AD 270. The first Indian astronomical text to define the weekday was the Āyurveda to the first Ya of Āyurveda to the first A. According to Michio Yano, Indian astronomers must have been occupied with the task of Indianizing and Sanskritizing Greek astronomy during the 300 or so years between the first Vedanga Jyotisha and the Āyurveda to the first Ya. The astronomical texts of these 300 years are lost. The later Paul plus or minus Kasida Ntika of Varahamihira summarizes the 5 known Indian astronomical schools of the 6th century. It is interesting to note that Indian astronomy preserved some of the older pre-Ptolemaic elements of Greek astronomy. The main texts upon which classical Indian astrology is based are early medieval compilations, notably the Bar to the first Hatpara Angstrom Arahura Angstrom and Zaravala by Kalaya to the first of Alma. The Hora Shastra is a composite work of 71 chapters, of which the first part dates to the 7th to early 8th centuries and the second part to the later 8th century. The Zaravala likewise dates to around 800 CE. English translations of these texts were published by N. Krishna Rao and V. B. Chitari in 1963 and 1961, respectively. Modern India, David Pingree notes that astrology and traditional medicine are the two traditional sciences that have survived best in modern India, although both have been much transformed by their Western counterparts. Astrology remains an important facet in the lives of many Hindus. In Hindu culture, newborns are traditionally named based on their Jyotisha to the first pounder charts, and astrological concepts are pervasive in the organization of the calendar and holidays as well as in many areas of life, such as in making decisions made about marriage, opening a new business, and moving into a new home. Astrology retains a position among the sciences in modern India. Following a judgment of the Andhra Pradesh High Court in 2001, some Indian universities offer advanced degrees in astrology. Astrology remains an important facet of Hindu folk belief in contemporary India. Many Hindus believe that heavenly bodies, including the planets, have an influence throughout the life of a human being, and these planetary influences are the fruit of karma. The Navagraha, planetary deities, are considered subordinate to Ishvara, that is, the Supreme Being, in the administration of justice. Thus, these planets can influence earthly life. Status of astrology, see also the section on science, below. In the early 2000s, under the Bharatiya Janata Party-led government in India, astrology became a topic of political contention between the religious right and academic establishment, comparable to the creation science debate in U.S. education. The University Grants Commission and the Ministry of Human Resource Development of the government decided to introduce Jyotish, or Vedic astrology as a discipline of study in Indian universities, saying that Vedic astrology is not only one of the main subjects of our traditional and classical knowledge but this is the discipline, which lets us know the events happening in human life and in universe on time scale. The decision was backed up by the Andhra Pradesh High Court, despite widespread protests from the scientific community in India and Indian scientists working abroad. A petition sent to the Supreme Court of India stated that the introduction of astrology to university curricula is a giant leap backwards, undermining whatever scientific credibility the country has achieved so far, but it refused to intervene in the matter. In 2004 the Supreme Court dismissed a further petition, concluding that the teaching of astrology did not qualify as the promotion of religion. In February 2011, the Bombay High Court referred to the 2004 Supreme Court ruling when it dismissed a case which had challenged astrology's status as a science. Despite continuing complaints by scientists, astrology is still, as of 2014, taught at various universities in India, and there is a movement in progress to establish a national Vedic university to teach astrology together with the study of Tantra, Mantra, and Yoga. Elements: there are 16 Varga, or divisional, charts used in Hindu astrology, Ra-angstrami Euro-zodiacal signs. Around 2500 BC many extant texts were written by sages such as Agastya and Bhrigu. Each sign was divided in 3 more strata called chalna similar to decanates of Western astrology. The Nirayana, or sidereal zodiac, is an imaginary belt of 360 degrees, which, like the Zayana, or tropical zodiac, is divided into 12 equal parts. Each 12th part is called a sign or Ra-angstrami. Vedic and Western zodiacs differ in the method of measurement. While synchronically, the two systems are identical, Jyotisha to the first pounder uses primarily the sidereal zodiac, whereas most Western astrology uses the tropical zodiac. This difference becomes noticeable over time. After 2 millennia, as a result of the precession of the equinoxes, the origin of the ecliptic longitude has shifted by about 22 degrees. As a result, the placement of planets in the Jyotisha to the first pounder system is consistent with the actual zodiac, while in Western astrology the planets fall into the following sign, as compared to their placement in the sidereal zodiac, about 2/3 of the time. Naka to the first poundatras, lunar mansions. A Naka to the first poundatra or lunar mansion is one of the 27 divisions of the sky, identified by the prominent star, S, in them, used in Hindu astrology. Historical Hindu astrology enumerated either 27 or 28 Naka to the first poundatras. Today, Popular usage favors a rigid system of 27 nakla to the first pound atras covering 13 degree 20 €1 registered trademark of the ecliptic each. The missing 28th nakshatra is Abhijita. Each nakla to the first pound atra is divided into quarters or padas of 3 degree 20. Of the greatest importance is the Abhyawika nakla to the first pound atra, which is the king amongst all the nakla to the first pound atras, and worshipping and propitiating this nakla to the first pound atra has the power to remedy all the other nakla to the first pound atras. Remedial measures are in general the high watermark of all realistic predictive astrology work and go a long way in mitigating karma. Dasha Euro-planetary periods. The word dasha means state of being, and therefore the dara governs to a large extent the state of being of a person. The dara system shows which planets may be said to have become particularly active during the period of the dara. The ruling planet eclipses the mind of the native, compelling him or her to act as per the nature of the planet. There are several dasha systems, each with its own utility and area of application. There are daras of grahas as well as daras of the Ra angstrom is. The primary system used by astrologers is the Vaya to the first angstrom Uttara Dara system, which has been considered universally applicable in the Kali Yuga to all horoscopes. The first Mahadara is determined by the position of the natal moon in a given nakla to the first pound atra. The lord of the nakla to the first pound atra governs the dara. Each Mahadara angstrom is divided into sub-periods called bhaktis, or antardara-s, which are proportional divisions of the Mahadasa. Further proportional subdivisions can be made. The next subdivision is called Pratyantardara, which can in turn be divided into Sukshma Antardasa, which can in turn be divided into Prana Antardara, which can be subdivided into Diha Antardara. Such subdivisions also exist in all other Dara systems, some of which have been named above. Grahas are Euro-planets, 9 grahas are used. From Grah, the 9 planets of Vedic astrology or Jyotisha to the first pound are the forces that capture or eclipse the mind and the decision-making of the human being, thus the term Graha. When the grahas are active in their daras or periodicities, they are particularly empowered to direct the affairs of the person or the inanimate being, as the case may be. Even otherwise, grahas are always busy capturing us in some way or other, for better or for worse. Gocharas are Euro transits. The natal chart shows the position of the grahas at the moment of birth. Since that moment, the grahas have continued to move around the zodiac, interacting with the natal chart grahas. This period of interaction is called Gochara. The study of transits is based not only on the transit of the moon/core plus or minus dra, which spans roughly 2 days, but also the movement of the slightly faster planets such as Mercury Buddha and Venus/Shukra. The movement of the slower planets Guru, Shani and Rahu Ketu is always of considerable import. Astrologers must study the transit of the Dara Lord and must also study transits from various reference points in the horoscope. Yogas are Euro-planetary combinations. Yoga is a combination of planets placed in a specific relationship to each other. It is usually advisable to study the underlying theme behind the yogas rather than attempting to memorize them. Raja yogas are givers of fame, status and authority and are formed typically by the association of Lord of K to the first row/quadrants when reckoned from the Lagna/ascendant and Lords of the Ta to the first Ko to the first trines. The Raja yogas are culminations of the blessings of Vaya to the first to the first U and Lakha to the first pound Ma. Some planets such as Mars for Leo Lagna do not need another graha so as to create Raja yoga, but is capable of Shomoto giving Raja yoga due to its lordship of the 4th bhava and the 9th bhava from the Lagna, the two being K to the first Ra and Ta to the first Ko to the first bhava respectively. Dana yogas are formed due to the association of wealth-giving planets such as the Dana or the 2nd Lord and the Labai or the 11th Lord from the Lagna. Dana yogas are also formed due to the auspicious placement of the Dara Pada/A7 when reckoned from the A-Raha Lagna. The combination of the Lagnu and the Baju also leads to wealth through the Lakha to the first pound Ma yoga. Sanyasa yogas are formed due to the placement of 4 or more grahas excluding the Sun and a K to the first Rabhava from the Lagna. There are some overarching yogas in Jyotisha to the first pounder such as Amavaya Do to the first pounder, Kala Sarpa Yoga, Kala Amata the first Tar Yoga, and Griha Malika Yoga, which can take precedence over planetary placements in the horoscope. Bhavasa Euro houses, the Hindu Jataka, or birth chart, is the Bhavakakra, the complete 360-degree circle of life, divided into houses, and represents our way of enacting the influences in the wheel. Each house has associated Karaka planets that can alter the interpretation of a particular house. Each bhava spans an arc of 30 degrees, and therefore there are 12 bhavas in any chart of the horoscope. These are a crucial part of any horoscopic study, since the bhavas, understood as state of being, personalize the Ra-angstramas/rashis to the native, and each Ra-angstramai/rashi, apart from indicating its true nature, reveals its impact on the person based on the bhava occupied. The best way to study the various facets of Jyotisha to the first pound A is to see their role in chart evaluation of actual persons and how these are construed. Da to the first, A to the first, A to the first is a Euro aspects, Drishti is an aspect to an entire house. Gramas cast only 4 aspects, with the furthest aspect being considered the strongest. For example, Mars aspects the 4th, 7th, and 8th houses from its position, and its 8th house aspect is considered more powerful than its 7th aspect, which is in turn more powerful than its 4th aspect. The principle of Drishti was devised on the basis of the aspect of an army of planets as deity and demon in a war field. Thus the Sun, a deity king with only 1 full aspect, is more powerful than the demon king Saturn, which has 3 full aspects. Aspects can be cast both by the planets and by the signs. Planetary aspects are a function of desire, while sign aspects are a function of awareness and cognizance. There are some higher aspects of Griha Da to the first, A to the first, A to the first I that are not limited to the Vyari to the first pound, A Da to the first, A to the first, A to the first I, or the special aspects. Ra-angstramai Da to the first, A to the first, A to the first I works based on the following formulaic structure: all movable signs aspect fixed signs except the one adjacent, and all dual and mutable signs aspect each other without exception. Science. Astrology has been rejected by the scientific community as having no explanatory power for describing the universe. Scientific testing of astrology has been conducted, and no evidence has been found to support any of the premises or purported effects outlined in astrological traditions. There is no proposed mechanism of action by which the positions and motions of stars and planets could affect people and events on Earth that does not contradict well understood, basic aspects of biology and physics. Astrologers in Indian astrology make grand claims without taking adequate controls into consideration. Saturn was in Aries in 1909, 1939 and 1968, yet the astrologer Bangalore Venkataraman claimed that, when Saturn was in Aries in 1939, England had to declare war against Germany, ignoring the 2 other dates. Astrologers regularly fail in attempts to predict election results in India, and fail to predict major events such as the assassination of Indira Gandhi. Predictions by the head of the Indian Astrologers Federation about war between India and Pakistan in 1982 also failed. Testing Hindu astrology. In one test, 27 Indian astrologers, with the appropriate horoscopes, failed to determine the intelligence difference between 100 mentally bright and 100 mentally handicapped children at a rate higher than that determined by chance alone in a double-blind test. The astrologers had, on average, 14 years' experience. A team of astrologers from one astrologers institute also performed at chance expectation. The president of the Maharashtra Astrological Society claimed to be able to predict sex and intelligence 60% of the time each, but he performed no better than chance and double-blind conditions. See also: Archaeoastronomy and Vedic chronology, Hindu calendar, Hindu chronology, Hindu cosmology, history of astrology, Indian astronomy, Jyotisha to the first pounder resources, Nodi astrology, Panchanga, list of Vedic astrology software, superstition in India, synoptical astrology, Hindu units of measurement, references. Bibliography. Kim Plofka, South Asian Mathematics. The Role of Astronomy and Astrology, Encyclopaedia Britannica, David Pingree and Robert Gilbert, Astrology. Astrology in India. Astrology in Modern Times, Encyclopaedia Britannica, Hindu Chronology Encyclopaedia Britannica 11th edition, David Pingree, Astronomy and Astrology in India and Iran, This is a Euro Journal of the History of Science Society, 229 a Euro 246. David Pingree, Jyotisha Epsilon Astra and J. Gonda A History of Indian Literature, Vol 6, Vask 4, Otto Harrisowitz, Wiesbaden. Ebenezer Burgess, On the Origin of the Lunar Division of the Zodiac Represented in the Nakshatra System of the Hindus, Journal of the American Oriental Society. William D. Whitney, On the Views of Byatt and Weber Respecting the Relations of the Hindu and Chinese Systems of Asterisms, Journal of the American Oriental Society. Satish Chandra, Religion and State in India and Search for Rationality, Social Scientist. Sanat Kumar Jain, Astrology a Science or Myth highlighting how every principle like sign lord, aspect, friendship enmity, exalted debilitated, mole tricon, dasha, rahuktu, etc. were framed on the basis of the ancient concept that sun is nearer than the moon from the earth, etc. External links, Hindu Astrology at DMOZ.